Hi, I'm Allie Hamilton, and I'm so happy to welcome you to the Come As You Are podcast. Every week, we'll be talking about some aspect of healing, usually around childhood wounds and complicated familial relationships. The topics will always coincide with my personal essay of the week, and this will be a place where we can take a deep dive together. I'm so thrilled you've joined me and delighted for you to always come as you are. Hi there. Hi there. Welcome to our talk. Today, the topic is the part that's doing me in. Postcard from Los Angeles. And I am still coming to you a mile from where the evacuation line was in Santa Monica. We're not in that situation now. The fire near me, which is the Palisades fire, is, I think, 31% contained now. And I didn't check before I started, but the Eaton fire, which is the other really big fire, is even more contained. So, that's all very promising and good. The rest of it is what it is. It's going to be a really long recovery out here as far as the Palisades, the PCH, just the areas that were Altadena, the areas that were just demolished, by these wildfires. It's going to be a long recovery and rebuild. So, and there are people who are displaced and trying to figure out what to do, where to go. A lot of people just really stunned still and trying to put one foot in front of the other. I have very close friends who have lost their homes and did not have time to pack anything. So what happens when you're in that state is that at first you're just trying to survive, problem solve. It's really primal, right? Like where do we go? What do we do? Who do we call? And then I think as time goes on and you've landed somewhere, you've got a place to stay, then I think the reality starts to set in. Everyone that I'm talking to is describing the same feeling of your brain keeps kind of doing this thing of well, when we go home, and then it's like, oh, that's not going to happen. All of my friends have described this need to go and see, and forgive me, my throat and my chest the air quality is terrible. And yes, I am masking, and yes, air purifiers, but it's just, it doesn't seem to matter. No matter what you do, the air quality is really not great. And so this need to go and see, where their homes used to be, where their apartment buildings used to be, because there's just a level of, it's hard to fathom, literally. It's hard to believe that an entire neighborhood could be gone, or that the place that you came and went from for so many years is just not there. So there's a lot of that going on. Just a lot of suffering, a lot of shock, a lot of trying to figure out what to do. And when you're in that state, the grief, I think it hits you in waves. They're especially if you have little kids that you're caring for, which a few of my friends do. You're so focused on making sure they feel safe, they feel secure, they feel loved. There isn't a lot of time for you to have your emotional breakdowns. So there's that going on. And I've also met people. I've been volunteering anywhere and everywhere that I can, because it's the only thing that brings me any relief is to just go and help in some way. And everyone is feeling that. When I go and I show up at these places, like so many of us are there trying to do something, anything. And so you meet people you don't know who've lost everything. And it's this community is coming together and it's going to be okay. Like that's not going anywhere. Like that's going to keep happening. I've met so many people I don't even know who have lost everything this week. And there is that moment of, I was at a clothing drive and I met a woman who had to leave just with nothing at all but what she had on her back. And just being in this environment where it was like, just help yourself, right? Like everything's marked clearly, just take what you need. There are, there's clothing, there's shoes, there's toiletries. I mean, she was just started crying. And it was like, that's what's happening for people is it's hitting them as they're going. And you can imagine, right? You can put yourself in somebody's shoes if you were in that situation. It's like, I think any of us can feel compassion for people. That's natural to us. I think if nothing has gone wrong for you as a human being, then your empathy is intact. And when you see someone suffering in front of you, it's just natural to us to want to help. And there are mirror neurons, if you're watching a film or you're watching a commercial and there's something touching or moving or, universal, and you find yourself like your eyes are welling up or you feel like your throat, there's like a lump in your throat. It's because of those mirror neurons. You're like mirroring, like you're imagining like, oh, I can absolutely understand how I would feel if I were in that position, or I've been in that situation. I relate, I understand on some level. Maybe it hasn't been exactly that, but I understand. Or just when you see people suffering, I don't know, like just you see someone crying, your heart breaks for them, because we've all had those moments where we're just like crying, we're just like suffering. And so there's been a lot of really beautiful, just so much of that, people really trying to show up for each other and be there. And that has been incredibly reassuring. And then there's also been, there's just been a lot of, the reverse of that. And I think that really broke me this week in a way that I did not expect. And I wrote about it. That's really what I was writing about, because for me, I'm one of the lucky people out here. As much as this has not been easy or, anything I would wish on anyone, I'm still really lucky. Like I had time to think about what I was going to pack into the trunk of my car. And, I never had to evacuate. My house is safe. So even if it hasn't been easy, I'm still really lucky, Nonetheless, it is stressful to be that close to a situation where you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're safe. Like, you have a kid in the house that when you're responsible for another human being who you love more than, anything in the world, it's a lot. And so I have not been sleeping. And I have yet to sleep really. I don't know, that's how it's manifesting for me. And I'm not alone in that. I've spoken to so many people this week who are just not sleeping. And, part of what's been happening out here is we're all looking at this Watch Duty app, which is this was just created. It's a nonprofit. And that's another amazing story that came out of this whole situation. But they've been tracking these fires and letting people know when it's time, like, there's like, okay, there's a warning in your area, which means like get ready, pack your car, like have your go bag ready, have your car packed, have a plan, like know where you're going to go. If this evacuation warning turns into a mandatory, like go now. So, and the alerts would go off in your phone, like, so that's everyone in Los Angeles has been like, downloaded this app, and this is how we're figuring out who's safe, what to do, and all of that. And so, it's stressful. It's not like, it's not easy. And so that's how it's been manifesting for me. I've been awake, and I have been managing to sort of like doze off around 4 a.m. And then I kind of like doze for a few hours, and then I'm like up at 7. And that's how I've been for over a week. And, obviously, y'all, I've been teaching yoga for over 30 years, practicing for like 33, almost 34 years. Like I've been doing all the things. I've been meditating, yoga nidra, 4-7-8 breathing, legs up the wall. I mean, all the things. But I think at a certain point when you are in this kind of situation, where it's just your nervous system and you have cortisol like flowing through your veins for days on end, there just comes a point where your nervous system it's just in that state of high alert, and that's where it's at. We're not built for this. And I think that I also have a little PTSD from 9/11, because there's a lot of similarity to the way things feel out here. It's same kind of grief and shock, and people walking around in a daze. It's the same helicopters overhead all night long, all day, military aircraft. It's the same ash in the air, and loss, and just there's a lot in the way this feels that is so reminiscent, like eerily so, minus the intent, but just where you're staring at something, and no matter like how long you stare at it, it just still, just doesn't make sense. And so I think there's some of that going on, and it's okay. Like this isn't going to go on forever. I will sleep again. But that's how it's been for me. And so I'm a lot more, I don't have much armor right now. I don't have a lot of armor. And so when I'm seeing things that are, painful, it's really affecting me instantly. And I have very intentionally not been watching the news or, doom scrolling. I don't have time. I'm not on social. Like I've been getting on social media to post links for people who have been displaced by the wildfires. So they, in case like here's where you can go to get like free meals. Here's where you can go for shelter. Here's where you can go for clothing. Like that's what that's what I've been posting, along with like essays and animal, like the Pasadena Humane, like, stuff, places where people can get help or they can give help. And that's about it. But even when you try to avoid this stuff, you just can't, there's no avoiding it. It's just there. Unfortunately, like even in the 3 seconds that you sign on to do something good, you're going to get hit in the face with cruelty that is just, unfortunately, like we've reached a shocking level of, a lack of just basic compassion, empathy, human decency. And it's not new, and I know we've all been seeing this erode for the last decade, but now I think what happened this week is I really thought I really did think that, when we're talking about people suffering this way, no one's going to attack. Like, no one's going to do that. And I just could not have been more wrong. And it just did me in. It really did. It took a very painful, stressful, devastating situation, which is going to be ongoing, and it made it that much worse. And also really broke my heart and scared me for all of us. And I think everyone should be concerned. I really do. Because if this is where we are, that, when there's tragedy, we're going to attack each other like we just don't care. That's a lot of trouble. That's a lot of trouble that we're in. And, we have, unfortunately, and it's so hard because it's like, I want to have this conversation, and I don't want to become a source of like division, or, I don't want to politicize. It's like, I don't want to do the thing that I'm talking about, but I have to talk about like what is happening, because it's what's happening. It's like, part of what I've been seeing, I was talking about, like, there's this, the economic theory, like the trickle down theory of economics, which is this idea that, like, well, if the people at the top are doing well, that's going to be great for everybody because that wealth will trickle down. I think we all realize that's not true. It does not work, does not happen. That money just stays at the top, and that's where it is, right? 1%, they're up there, they've got it, and it does not trickle down. The hatred trickles down. And part of what happened over the last few days is that when I'm signing on, I'm seeing politicians, Republican politicians, talking about withholding disaster relief funds to the state of California unless certain conditions are met, and it's just like, and the person who's going to become president attacking the governor of California while he's on the ground fighting a natural disaster. Tornadoes of fire. That's basically what we've been dealing with here. Schoolyard insults. It's just like, and when the person at the top is doing it, yes, it trickles down. It absolutely does. Everyone who likes that person follows suit. And that is what happens, and unfortunately it's like, it's just, I don't know what to say, except I hope that people can catch themselves. Like, more people can catch themselves, because even, like, there were some good stories that came out of all of this heartbreak this past week here, like this Casey Colvin. And I did attach a link in the essay this week. I mean, this man, he had 2 dogs that he rescued. They were rescue animals. And he went to work last Tuesday, as did thousands of other people. He left his house in the Palisades at like 7 a.m. And the fire started just before 10:30, after 9:30, before 10:30 in that area, and people were evacuated while they were at work, meaning you cannot come back into this area. So he's at work, and he suddenly, realized there's a fire, and he spends 5 hours trying to get back to save his dogs, and he gets to the bottom of his hill, and there's like a blockade. People are, being taken out of the area, not allowed back in. So the police stop him, and he is panicked and weeping. And there's a reporter there covering the fire. And, she starts talking to him, and he says, my dogs are in my house. Like, I've been like, I've been 5 hours from trying to get back here. Like and she took pity on him. She went and found a firefighter. The firefighter went to his house, was able to rescue one of his dogs. The other one was nowhere to be found. Dogs take off in situations like that. They get scared, they take off. And cats do too. I mean, it's, animals, they have a survival instinct. They get afraid and they run. So for 5 days, he thought his second dog, Oreo, had perished. I mean, and people's homes, the people whose houses burned down in those areas, they have not been allowed back in. They weren't allowed in for the first few days at all. And then in the last few days, they've been allowed back in with an escort, with a police escort or firefighters, just because it's not safe. The entire infrastructure is like, it's gone. It's gone. This is not. I'm assuming most people have seen the videos. Most of these houses, what you're looking at now, they're like, it's like a hole in the ground. There are steel beams. There's nothing, it's not safe, it's not stable. So he gets escorted back up the hill, and his dog comes running down the hill. And it's like, it was like, after 5 days, and somehow or another, this little Oreo has been like hiding and managing to survive and avoid these fires for 5 days. So obviously I knew I wasn't going to make it through the story. So he he's like weeping and, just like so beside himself with gratitude that this little dog like made it. So people are posting it because it's like, it's a miracle. Like, it's unbelievable. And we all need these wins wherever we could possibly get them out here right now. It's like desperately like holding on to those good stories. And like people underneath the video are literally just like, how could he leave his dog? Like, how could he have done that? He doesn't deserve that dog. There's a special place in hell for people who would leave a dog, but like, he didn't leave the dog. He left for work. It was a normal day. It's just, it's not just under his videos. It's like, there are all these videos of firefighters saving dogs, saving cats, like saving pets, saving horses, like saving animals. These firefighters are heroes. They have been fighting they're still fighting. And anywhere you see a video like that, just look for yourself. It's still happening. I could never leave an animal. What's wrong with these people? They deserve what they've got. Just like this really nasty, like judgmental, attacking, vicious, like awful comments with nothing, like no investigation, no, moment to like maybe wonder before I say this, maybe I should just like Google or read a few other comments or ask myself if I know the story before I attack someone who just spent 5 days suffering, like, but there's none of that. Like, there's none of that, compassion. Like, and so I found myself, I just couldn't take it. Like someone in Casey Colvin's position or my friend Josh or my friend Nicole, like those people do not need to be defending themselves right now to anyone. They just like literally lost everything except their lives, And so I defended him and I just couldn't help it because it's just like, what are you talking about? That's not what happened. But it is so disheartening to see. And it's not just with animals. It's also people writing things like these, Los Angeles people, there's a bunch of celebrities and millionaires. They're going to be fine. They'll just buy a new mansion next week. They'll have 1,000 plate dinner, fundraiser. And it's like, okay, Not everyone out here is a millionaire or a celebrity. There are a lot of really hardworking people, a lot of them. The majority, by far, of people out here, are not celebrities and millionaires. Please let me, like, if there's any doubt in your mind, that is not the number of celebrities and millionaires out here is like a teeny tiny percentage. And then there's the millions and millions and millions of other people who live in Los Angeles who are not that, who are just hardworking people trying to pay their bills, who just lost everything. And so it's just that, and I say just, but that's like a huge thing, to get to a place where we see people suffering and the response is to attack, to say it's your woke policies, it's your DEI hires, it's your governor, it's like, what are you doing right now? What are you doing right now? Like, you know what? If you don't like California and you don't want to help and you don't want to donate and you don't want to say something loving or supportive or kind, just be quiet. Then just be quiet. That's not a lot to ask. Just scroll by. But don't attack people when they're hurting. Don't assume you know things that you don't know anything about. All these fire experts all of a sudden, really? It's like everyone's an expert. Everyone knows what should have happened. It's like, I've lived in Santa Monica for over 20 years. The day of the fires, I had to go and drop something off, and I saw a tree that had been knocked off, like a trunk just broken by the wind. Like, it was just, the tree had just completely been broken in half. Not a palm tree, like just a tree. Jagged trunk, because we had 100-mile-an-hour winds. We had drought conditions. We've had cooler temperatures. So it's like, really easy to become an expert on things that you don't know anything about. But that's not helping anyone. And some of these comments too, do you know about a place called Gaza? You know what? Let me help you understand something. That comment, it doesn't help anyone in Gaza. It doesn't help anyone in Los Angeles. If that's your concern, take your thumbs and go make a donation to somebody in Gaza. Do that instead. Don't do this. It is actually possible to have compassion for people in more than one place at the same time. And that's what I'm talking about. To me, it's like, if you see people suffering anywhere in the world, I would hope you want to help. It doesn't matter where they are. And I mean that, like, across the board. And I've been worrying about this from before the fires, because it has become very much like you're allowed to have compassion for this set of people, but not this set of people. Everything is becoming politicized. Compassion is becoming politicized. And I'm going to tell you something. If that's where we're at, we're in more trouble than I think we understand. And I was already concerned about that, because that's not compassion. It's like, if you see someone suffering and your first thought is, where's that person from? You've lost it. You've lost the thread. If your first thought is, what political party do they belong to? I don't know what to tell you, but you're not, it's gone. You're disconnected from your own humanity. And that's the terrifying thing. That's when I get really scared. And I got really scared this week. I got really scared this week. I'm still scared. I'm scared for all of us. I'm not just scared for California. I'm scared for all of us on this planet right now because that is not a good place to be. So I don't know. I know that's not like the most hopeful message, but I mean, I can't manufacture hope. I need to I just need to say where I'm at, and what I saw this week and what I've been seeing. We've got to It's bad enough. There's a lot of things going wrong here, okay? In the world, in our country, we've got to get money out of politics. We've got to get politics out of our compassion practice. Like, we've got a lot of things that need to get disentangled so that we can get back to something sane and loving. And, these people that are dividing us, they do not care about us, okay? Billionaires do not care about us. They don't. None of them have made any disaster relief donate. Where are any of them? I mean, there are people from the state who've made their fortunes in the state who are billionaires who have not lifted a finger to help the state of California. And the idea that an incoming president could just callously be talking about withholding federal relief funds from a state as leverage while they're literally dealing with a disaster, this is really ugly. Like, it's ugly, it's unpatriotic, it's immoral, it's repugnant, it's awful. It's awful. This is not a person who cares about anything except getting what he wants. So this is who we decided we want in power. I mean, this is not good, folks. Like, it's really not. And all those people, it doesn't matter. Like, they don't, anyone who can build a rocket and fly around, they don't care about you or me, And I really think we better get this memo here sooner than later. It's like all this stuff is just distracting us. Billionaires buying newspapers and curating the news and, I don't know, keeping us distracted with these phones, and other billionaires buying social media sites and keep having us scream at each other, hate each other. Our like addiction to Amazon Prime and having things delivered to the house every day, air conditioning running when it's not even really hot. Like, it's just all of this convenience and shiny things like this toy and that toy. It's like all a distraction. And meanwhile, these natural disasters are getting worse and worse. It's not a coincidence. It's like the wildfires are getting worse, the flooding is getting worse, the hurricanes are getting worse. I mean, what is it going to take here before we all get on the same page together and realize what's happening? Like, we need to get together and, I don't know, start working as some kind of human being team, or we're not going to be okay. We're not going to be okay. Like, we're going to destroy ourselves. We're going to destroy the earth. I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, I think that I generally am, I'm a pretty optimistic person, and that's always been part of my personality. I've always been a pretty optimistic person, no matter how hard things have been or dark or difficult. That just tends to be my outlook. I've always believed in the goodness of people. I've always believed there are more kind-hearted, open-hearted, loving people. I've always been that person who says, like Mr. Rogers' mom, like how he, when he was a little boy and he was scared, his mom would tell him to look for the helpers. I've always been that person. Like, I believe that. I've always tried to be a helper. I still am. I see them all over. And I'm going to tell you, like, I went to volunteer at Baby to Baby. I think that was on Wednesday. I don't know. The days are all kind of, rolling together, but it was incredible. They've already sent out 3 million disaster relief bags to displaced families all over Los Angeles. I'm going to go volunteer with them as often as they'll have me. They are amazing. So that is all true. There are really, really good people in this world. We have got to hold on to each other and like really focus on our communities and find each other and hold on tight and try to get a little louder because it's rough, and I don't know, anywhere you can, if you see that kind of vitriol being directed at someone who is depleted, who is suffering, and you can kind of like step in. I didn't attack back, I'll tell you, when I saw that happening this week, and I didn't, it's not like I can't do it. I cannot for my own, I have to protect my own mental health too, and I'm not okay right now. It's like I'm at my max. I'm using all my tools and I wake up in tears, I'm doing the best that I can, and like it's temporary. I'm not worried about myself. I'm going to be fine. I have my practice. I have a beautiful community. I'm safe. My physical well-being is safe. My nervous system doesn't know that yet. That's all. Like I know what's going on. I'm not, but it's like if you see that happening and you are in a good space, it wouldn't be bad to like step in and just say like, you know what? You have no idea what that person's going through right now. Please don't talk to them like that. Like help if you want to help or move along. I think we need to start standing up for each other a little bit more, shielding each other from this stuff because it's very painful to have to do that from inside a disaster. And the other thing that I was writing about is that, the same thing is going to happen with this that happens with everything else. It's like these fires got a lot of attention this last week in the world news. They were like the top story for a while. That's going to change. It's going to be done next week. There'll be another top story. It's how it is. It's the world we've created. People don't have the attention span that they did. And it's all about money. It's like billionaires making money. If they're making money off your suffering, then you'll be a top story. If they're not, you won't. And I'm going to let you know, just watch. It's already happening. The fires are going to drop down and there'll be other stories that rise to the surface. And that will continue to happen every week. So, and meanwhile, we'll be here dealing with this for months and months and years. This isn't going to be a quick thing, and that's okay. I'm not expecting it to be at the top of the hour for, months and months and years. I'm just saying that it's like when someone dies, and everyone comes to support in the beginning. Like, people come. I was writing about it in the essay. Like, I didn't actually experience that because my mom died during the pandemic, and nobody could come, and she was in the ICU. So, nobody could come. But generally speaking, people come, right? They show up and you have a funeral. We had a Zoom memorial for my mom. My dad didn't want a funeral. I had moved him out here by then and he didn't want that. So it's like, but people text or they send cards or they check in on you, right? How are you doing? Are you okay? Do you need anything in the beginning? And then little by little they go back and they Of course they do. They go back to their lives as they should, right? Um, this is what is going to keep happening in life, but we gotta try to show up for each other and not, not forget about each other, not forget about like where someone is or what they're dealing with or what they're going through. My friends who've lost everything, like they're not going to be okay next week or next month. They're probably not going to be okay next year. So, it's just, I don't know, just like those of us who are kind-hearted and open-hearted and want the world to be loving, I think maybe see if you can even, I don't know, like what more you can do, how you can help. Maybe there's a way you can volunteer more in your community. I do think that's the key. And I was talking about this before the fires. Like I had started to try to do more thing. There's a neighbor on my block who is elderly and lives alone. And just, I've been trying to take on more day-to-day things like, hey, do you want to go to the grocery store? I'm going to the grocery store. Do you want me to pick anything up for you, or do you want to come? Like just anything like that you can do. I think that's kind of what we need to be doing, is just becoming the safety net for our own communities and looking out for each other, and really holding on tight. And when you have a little extra, whatever it is to give, I'm not talking about money, not absolutely. A lot of people are struggling right now. So, it might not be money, but if you have time, or if you're, if you have like an expertise in something that you could maybe offer, anything, like just to think about what could I do? Do I have any skills that might be really valuable to someone, or, just anything. What can I do? Is there somebody that needs something on my block that I could help with? It'll make you feel better. It'll make them feel better. And it's not like I wasn't looking out for this neighbor. I already was. It's just I've stepped it up because I'm trying to figure that out, if you can't save the world like in the big picture, like how do you take that vision and like what can you do right now? What can you do right now? So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I wanted to say today. And I'm kind of actively trying to figure it out. I don't know yet. It's like a lot of these platforms they're really useful for what I was describing. Like in a situation like this, pretty much all of Los Angeles, that's how people are communicating things. Like, there's links all over in Instagram stories and, posts. People are like letting people know where resources are available. And it's a bummer because like the person who owns these platforms, it's another situation where you have a billionaire who does not care about people. So it's just trying to figure out how do we communicate with each other, and like how do we, I don't know, just like how do we, what do we do here? Like what, and also like just where are you getting your information, to try to be really careful about that too. Your news sources and just all that stuff, just to try to be really mindful and to also watch your intake of upsetting, it's like information, and to know when it's food, right? Like what are you feeding yourself? Pratyahara in yoga, Prati means away from, and ahara means food. And when you get on your yoga mat, right, part of what you're doing when you're using the focal points, the drishtis, like the focal points, like with your visual focal points, and then also like paying attention to your breath, right, and all those different things that you're using to draw your awareness towards sensation, because sensation's happening in the present moment. The idea is that you're engaging like pratyahara, you're moving away from food, but it's not literal food that you're putting in your mouth and eating. It's like mind stuff, right? It's your really strong likes or dislikes, your opinions, your whatever. It's what you're feeding yourself. And so just to be really mindful about that, like, what am I? Rage, doom scrolling isn't going to help anyone. It isn't going to save anyone. It isn't going to make anybody's life better. So if you're on these platforms, like, just watch like what you're doing. I really, for me, this is me. I'm not telling, everybody's got to figure it out for themselves. I jump on. I really am trying to, even not during like a disaster, just put out some good, useful information and move along. So trying to use them mindfully, since they're part of our culture and our daily lives, and not get sucked in. And then also just trying to be really mindful throughout the day of like, where am I getting my information? What am I taking in? Make sure you get outside and like leave your phone, like just take in nature, give your eyes, like, get off the screens, connect with friends, like, you know what I mean? Like, make sure you're really read a good book or listen to some good music or make yourself a good meal or just like nourish your soul here. And I don't know, folks, just like remember your own humanity and nurture that. And if you are heartbroken right now about the state of the world, I think that's a good sign, because this is not it. This is not it. Like, we're supposed to care about each other. Yeah, we're supposed to care about each other. And I genuinely care about you. And, I'm so sad that I'm just so sad that we're like in this state. I don't know. I'm really, I'm a child of the 70s. Age of Aquarius. Like, I really wanted to see a lot more love and compassion, and I have not given up. I'm just really like, I'm down right now. It's a rough go, and it's a rough time. I think we're in a really rough timeline. Just been a lot of wild things, kind of like, I don't know. It's been a long haul. So I think a lot of the Gen X people are feeling it, but I think we're all feeling it. I think we are all feeling it. And I want you to know, at the very least, you're not alone. If you've been feeling despair, if you've been feeling heartache, you're not alone. And I know we're going to get through it. I know we'll get through it. And I know we'll get through it better if we reach out to each other and if we try to nourish the best in ourselves and each other. So, yeah, sending you a lot of love and my whole heart. I hope you're okay out there. And if you aren't, you know where to find me. I'll see you next time.